Hello. And here we go. Hopefully it's working today. Hello, everybody who's starting to join. Just going to wait for a few people to join and then we'll get started. Today it's going to just be me. It looks like Jerry had some family stuff to attend to, which is always great. It's good to love your family. So Jerry will be out for today. And you just have me. You're stuck with me. And that's okay too. Hello, everybody. And it looks like we're going live on Discord, which is great. Okay. Wow, so many already. I'm glad all of you are paying attention. And yeah, so today we're going, I didn't change the title because I completely forgot to do that, but today we're doing Orange for Healing, our second tenet, not our first tenet again. That would be a little bit much. We're not that kind of repetitive folk, right? Although we could always revisit another time, but I think we're going to get through all the tenets first. So yeah, we have quite a few of you already, so I'm going to get started. I'm going to do what Jerry does. Jerry always starts out with a little lighting of a candle, and we go from there. But I don't have her really cool rainbow candle, so you're going to have to bear with me. I have this instead. Me and my friends decided to make candles with our favorite queens or people, and I have on one side we have Lizzo, and the other side we have Mindy Kaling, and I made this, so we're going to use this today. So, thank you, you're not stuck with me. I know, I tell self-depreciating jokes all the time because I am a product of my generation. But all of you new generation people are really good about reminding me not to do that. So I'm going to say we're happily together and enjoying this journey together. Okay, so I'm going to light the candle. Okay. Never said I was great with fire. Okay. Nope. This has never been lit before, so... Oh, great. Let's not die today, bad joke. But let's not cause a fire. My cat wouldn't like that. Okay, so now I've lit the candle, and we're lighting this candle in honor of people who have passed, people who are going through trauma, people who are going through anything, includes you, and people that we know are going through something. So we have this lit. I don't think you'll be able to see it, but it's next to me for the whole thing. And we're going to have a moment of silence, so... Okay. Well, I hope you also use that as a moment to reflect. It's always really good. And also meditating is very good. So for today, we're doing Orange, which is healing. It is our second tenet. And if anybody remembers that, we're going to go over that. Let me just bring it up. I have everything on my fancy little computer, which is not that fancy. It's just for gaming. Okay, so Orange for healing means I am deserving of all forms of consensual love without fear of discrimination. Love is love. Love is healing. And what the expanded version of that is, because we also wanted to make a more accessible version without using, for lack of a better way of putting it, big words. We all tend to use this jargon daily and forget what things mean. So actually, each of these tenets have an expanded tenet, which will be posted on the site eventually. The expanded version is you can love the way that you want to love. Who you love must want and be able to agree to that love. No one should treat you differently because of the way that you love. And there are many ways to love. Love is a beautiful thing. Love makes you feel good. So we're going to be discussing that. One of the first things I like to talk about, because it's the most important part, is consent. And consent is something that shows up in all types of your life. All different, goes from everywhere. And the biggest thing here is that not only should someone agree to the relationship that you have with them, they have to be able to give this consent. And that includes anyone who is under the influence, which most of us are very familiar with that. Power imbalances. If someone isn't able to say no because of the power imbalance, that is not consent. It includes someone who has a disability that might impair their ability to give full consent. There's obviously various different conditions for that or situations for that. We're not going to get into that, but that's really important, making sure somebody's able to give consent for you. And of course, the biggest one is that if the person is a minor, they can't give consent to an adult. That's one of the hugest things we always really stress. Someone has to be able to give consent to any form of love or anything that you do concerning them. So going on with that also, with minors, of course, people of similar ages from minor to minor is different, and you can defer to state laws and things like that, and subtlety. There's there's nuance there. Obviously, someone who's 15-year-old cannot consent, someone who's 5 years old cannot consent to 15-year-old interaction. Things like that. We're also using our judgment. But I just wanted to mention consent very specifically because when we're talking about love and all forms of love, consent is very important. And now that we've kind of done that, and also the power imbalance is really a big thing. A lot of people forget about that. So now we've gone over consent, and I'm trying not to rush through this because it's my habit of just speeding through. Let me know if I'm going too fast. We're going to talk about why love equals healing. Because it seems weird. You're like, okay, well, we're talking about healing. What does that have to do with love? Well, when you're going through a process of healing, it usually means you had some form of trauma. Something in your life happened. It doesn't have to be this huge event. Trauma isn't always, a car crash or losing a person, which obviously we all know the realness of grieving. But trauma can be during a period of time in your life where you're going through something you didn't feel emotionally validated by other people. That's a real big thing. Is there a lag? Oh no! Can y'all hear me? What kind of lag is there? How bad's the lag? I'm sorry. I hope you can actually hear any of that. I think it's fine. Someone give me a thumbs up. Is everything fine? Y'all hearing me? Thank you for loving the eyes. I spent 10 minutes on it. Okay, it looks like everything's probably fine. Okay. Yep, okay. So going back to why love is healing. And so we were going on about trauma. And trauma is usually a situation, or healing is usually a situation where you're healing from a trauma. And trauma doesn't have to be big. It can be you were upset as a child because your toy was broken. And as a child, that's a big thing. Your toy got broken and by your sibling. This is obviously an example that happened to me. Toy got broken by my sibling, and I go to my mom, and she's just like, this is not a big deal. And yes, in the framework of things, it is not a big deal that my toy got broken. Come on, let's be real. But to me, as like a 7-year-old, it was the biggest thing that ever happened to me. And so a little bit of trauma happened for me. I felt very invalidated. And sometimes when you feel invalidated, you can experience trauma. And so that's why we're discussing that, because it's really important to realize it's not always the big events. People may not look at me and think, oh wow, she's been through a lot, but I have. All of us have been through a lot, and you may not even realize moments of trauma throughout your life. And so that's why healing is necessary. In order to find a way through trauma is healing. And the best way to heal is love. And there's many forms of love. It's not just romantic love and parental love. There's actually several different ways to break it down, but I prefer this one, and there's 8 forms of love. And there's the Greek name, which I don't care about the Greek name. I don't speak Greek. Or is it? Ooh, it might be Latin. Oh my goodness, it might be the Latin name. So when I'm reading this, from what I've heard from a therapist, trauma is caused by suddenly feeling like a place you are in is unsafe. Yes, that is very true. You're feeling a moment of unsafe. 7-year-old me felt unsafe because my feelings weren't validated. Or maybe you're driving in a car with someone and they're speeding and you feel, scared because you don't have control. There's so many different ways to describe trauma, but unsafety, the lack of safety in your mind is a big one. It doesn't even mean that physically you're unsafe all the time. Sometimes you just don't feel safe. Or I lived in an apartment with friends who didn't lock the doors at night, and I felt unsafe. And even though I go ahead and lock all the doors, they go and unlock all of the doors. I felt unsafe. So that's the thing. So going on to types of love, and I'm going to make this bigger because I'm blind. I'm reading from my computer. So there's the probably Latin names, but I'm just going to skip them. Like everybody's heard agape, eros. Let's just go with the English names to be easier for everybody. We have love for humanity, which is like the love for everybody in general as people. We have self-love, which is a very important one. We have love that lasts, or enduring, can't even say the word, enduring love, something that lasts for a long time. We have all-consuming love, which we'll get on that. We have romantic love. We have love between friends, familial love with your family, and then playful love. So those are all really cool ways of doing it. There's definitely other ways to break it down. Some websites will say, oh, there's 4 different types or 12 different types. But I like these 8. Humanity, self-love, love that lasts, all-consuming, romantic, love between friends, familial love, and playful love. So the big ones that I really want to talk about is self-love. That's a really great way to start for healing. Really, if you find a way to heal within by yourself, you can really move forward. But you also might need things like familial love or friendship love, or romantic love. And here's a great example. I had a wedding about a year ago, and as people may know from TV or planning your own wedding, it was chaos. It's a day of, I'm excited, good emotions, bad emotions, things go wrong. One of my bridesmaids got the wrong day and she's running over from an hour away and late. Like it was dramatic. And when I found out that one of my bridesmaids might be late for the wedding, I immediately started hyperventilating and panicking. It was a full-blown spiral. I have anxiety and depression, and this can happen. And what was really cool is one of my other bridesmaids, these are all my really great friends, she just holds me by the hand, she takes my hand, and she says, stop for a second and breathe with me. And we literally breathed together and held hands for about a few minutes. And let me tell you, I felt so much better. It's called co-regulation, where you and another person, you're breathing together, you're regulating together, you're having a moment, and you're doing something that technically you could do on your own, but because you're in such a heightened state, you might need someone else to do this. And it could be a friend who does this, it could be a romantic partner, it could be a family person, another family member, and these are moments that are really helpful. So co-regulation, for example, when I mentioned when I was a kid and my brother broke my doll, it would have been cool if my mom knew about this, and I'm not blaming her, we don't blame our parents here. They did the best they could, but it would have been cool if she knew about this and said, oh, Tiffany, I know you're going through this, breathe with me, or even affirm, say, oh, I know this is a really important toy to you, but your brother didn't mean to do it. And of course he didn't, he's a kid too. So things like that. Love helps you with healing. You're going through a moment of trauma, and it doesn't become a lasting moment of trauma all the time when you have someone there for you, or yourself, or any other form of love. So it's really interesting how love and healing are so close to each other. It doesn't seem like it, but that's pretty much the essence of relationships. We're there for each other in many different ways, and it doesn't mean that the person completes you, but they can add to your life. So that's something I really like to discuss. And one of the forms of love I was saying that we're going to go back into is all-consuming love. That's also called mania, and it's when maybe it's a new relationship and you just feel all these great feelings. Oh my goodness, I love them. They're so cool. And they consume your whole life. That's the kind of love that you want to be a little careful with. It can be a great and wonderful feeling, but when it's truly consuming you to the point where you can't study, you can't go to work, you can't engage with other people, that's when it becomes a thing. So that's just something to think about. But those are the main points of healing in this tenet that I really wanted to cover. And also, I already mentioned consent, which is the big one. And then I wanted to go back into, of course, we all know the phrase love is love. That's pretty much saying that all types of consensual love are important. Love for your friends, love for another person of the same gender. There's different polyamory, love for multiple people, whatever works for you and it's consensual is okay. And that's why you want to really acknowledge that and realize that you're part of this community. And also other things I wanted to address. I know that we have a large disabled community, which is wonderful because I'm really happy that we're trying to make that the forefront of what we do. We are a queer community, LGBTQIA plus community, but also we want to acknowledge our disability community because there's so many of us, and the cool thing about this church is that we really try to make sure that all of us are really included. And so part of that is I've spoken to a friend before, and I'm not going to say anything about who they are, but I will say that they have disability, and they are mentioning things like, well, in my family, I'm not able to give support in certain ways. I'm not able to do things the way that other people would do them. And I just wanted to say that it's important to know that just being a part of your family makes you, and I shouldn't say just, they've also told me to avoid saying minimizer words, and I need to work on that. But being part of your family is important, and you bring value even if you can't do anything that you would normally typically consider to be helpful to the family. You're not doing the dishes, you're not driving someone somewhere, you're not doing all these other things. Everyone thinks that's what being a part of a family is, and actually being a part of a family is just being a part of the family. That's the thing. You give value by being a part of the family. And you don't have to do anything in particular. I'm just going to read some comments. That's what I love about this church. There's a place for everyone. There really is a place for everyone. If your heart is in the right place, it's the right place for you. And I feel a little insecure about calling myself disabled. I really feel that too, because I have things about me that would put me in the disability category, but for some reason I feel very uncomfortable with that, and that's really okay. Yeah, I know people have heard the term differently abled, and I think in general the disability community has rejected that, as well as the person first, like a person who is disabled. We prefer to say disabled person, from what I understand. You're also welcome to correct me, but I think in general they don't want to minimize it. Disability is disability, but it's not a bad thing. It's just a fact. Sometimes there are just things that it's a fact about you. It doesn't mean that it is a minimizer about you. So that's why I believe that the disability community says no to person first or saying differently abled. And now in that, of course, yes, each one of us does have different abilities, but a disabled person, typically from what I understand, prefers to be called disabled. And please correct me if I'm wrong, because even if I should be a member of the community, I don't believe that I'm not there yet mentally, so I'm not going to speak for that community. Let's see, because I may be disabled, but I think it's so minor and so insignificant that I think I don't. It's not insignificant or minor. It's just, if it aligns with you, you use it. If it doesn't align with you, you don't have to use it. It's one of those things. It's not a bad word, but I know it's difficult, even for myself, really identifying with something that historically you feel is negative. It's horrible. It's even just identifying as queer. Growing up in the 90s and early 2000s, it's like, oh, I don't want to call myself queer. I don't want to call myself bi, but eventually you learn to get over it. There's just a different way, you just have to do what works for you. And the person says, you're not wrong. The other phrase feels condescending. I prefer disabled. Yeah, if you're a disabled person, you can use whatever phrase you want. There's no one should ever be policing you, how you should feel and how you should communicate your your truth. But I think from what I understand, and again I can be wrong, that the preferred term is just disabled. Yeah, we all do come into acceptance differently. Things take time. Like for me, it's been very new being a gender fluid person, and like I'm very femme presenting, and I love that. But for me, gender is really confusing. And so, being part of the non-binary community also makes me part of the trans community. And thanks for the flowers. Being part of the trans community, and I'm like, oh, well, that makes me not cis, I'm trans. And it's like confusing, right? But it's just a descriptor word. It just is. It's not a negative thing. But you come into it on your own, and you do it on your own time, and you define yourself. And that's the really cool thing about this church, is that we're allowing space for that. You define yourself and where you're at, and we accept you for who you are where you're at, providing that you're obviously in a consensual situation and you're treating other people appropriately and not doing anything obviously harmful to other people. So that's really the main things here. So let me just see if I missed any good comments. I really love this discussion. I imagine the reason why it is wrong to say person first, because it makes it seem like the person is an adjective. Yeah, I think that's part of it. And I think it's also, it's like minimizing it, because it's just a fact. It's like, I'm black. I'm a black person. I'm not a person who is black. You would never say that. It's weird, right? And so why are we making anything different for disabilities? Disability is not a bad word. So why is it, and that's what it is. We're not minimizing disability. Disability just is. It just is. It's not bad. It just is a state of the person and, what's going on. And I see. And because I'm mixed, I do love to be Mexican, to know my brain. I'm dyslexic. Sometimes I can't read. I do love to be Mexican, and I know that I have a rich and incredible culture. You do, exactly. By the way, I absolutely love Mexico. I've never been, but I've seen pictures, and I think it's going to be one of my next destinations. Just had to say that as sidebar. Mexico is beautiful. But yeah, same thing with Mexico. There's a lot of, tension, and there's a lot of negativity, and unfortunately in America surrounding Mexico, and I've noticed that. but it's actually this beautiful place, and it's just beautiful people, and I don't really know how that happened in American culture, and I'm so happy that in the last many years we've come to recognize that, it's a beautiful culture, and we're saying the wrong thing, and we're starting to be more conscious about how we talk about other cultures and other people, whether it's disability, race, anything else. Like, people are just people. Yeah, so although use the term "you're still special," you're still valid. Yeah, oh, special. You don't care for the term special. I think it's also context. Like, if someone calls you a special person in their life, usually it's a positive feeling. But if someone says, "Oh, they're special," it's a negative feeling. And so I think context and nuance is always there. But it's also one of those things where if you don't like something, it is totally okay to say you don't like it. You know, and I say I'm not connected to my culture. I don't speak the language. I'm not connected to my culture as much as I wish I was either. My dad is from Haiti. He grew up there most of his younger life, and I do not speak any Creole or French, even though he tried to teach me. So, but yeah. And I see, hey, I'm ordained with ULC. Are you guys doing them? I'm not sure what ULC is. Can you tell me what ULC is? But we are working on ordainment. We just have to finish up. We want to make sure it's an easy process for people of getting ordained, and then we're going to present it to the public and have people be able to sign up. I believe people have already pre-signed up. I'm not totally sure about that process, but yeah. Oh, Universal Life Church. Okay, that's really cool. I'm going to look into that. I actually didn't know about them. I'm still learning about a lot of things. But yeah, so I think to kind of cap off everything before we keep completely shift topics. So for the second tenet with healing, it's just really recognizing that, whether you're healing from trauma, which is typically the case, even if it's not a big trauma, not that we're going to minimize anybody's trauma, whether you're doing that or you're just healing as a general, you're growing as a person and you're coming into yourself, that's also, a valid thing. It's something that you really need to do. And that's part of the self-love and all the other forms of love. And so it's really important that you recognize that, you're an important person and you deserve grace and wonderfulness and love from everyone in your life, including from yourself. And I think a lot of us struggle with that. And some things you can do is, if you don't have the means or time for therapy, you can also do self-help books. Those are really great, life-changing things. I'm eventually going to make a really great list of recommendations and really reevaluate, how you do your life and do things that work for you. Don't do things that work for other people. And so that's the main thing here. Really just kind of thinking about yourself as a whole person as much as possible and seeing that person as deserving of goodness. But yeah, let me see if there's anything else. Yeah, Universal Life Church, yes. Internet-based content, yeah. So let's start with any questions regarding the second tenet, what we've gone over, a little bit of the lesson, any comments, things like that. Let's see. Did I just get a message? I did on the Discord, I believe. Oh no, that's for something totally different. Yeah. Every now and then I'm like, ooh, I got a message. Someone loves me. People love me anyway, but, not for the same reason right now. I see my depression can get extremely out of hand. Yeah, depression is a very difficult thing. I also have depression, and for me, and it's going to work differently for everybody else, for a period of time, what really worked for my healing was I took medicine for a while. I took specifically Prozac. Doesn't bother me to say it, and I took specifically Prozac, and then I went to therapy for a few years with a therapist who was pretty good. And then I moved, and I found a therapist who is the best person I've ever met. And when you respect your therapist and they respect you back, it is such an amazing chemistry of being able to talk to someone. Like, I wish she was my friend, but she can't be, obviously. Morally, it doesn't make sense because there's an imbalance in our relationship. But it is so beautiful, someone who can understand me and really guide me. And she doesn't tell me what to do. She just kind of, sometimes she'll repeat things in a different way and really make me see it differently. And that works for me. I believe technically this is cognitive behavioral therapy, but there's also somatic therapy, and she's done a little bit of that with me. And I think the big thing is if you can find the right therapist, therapy is good for you. If you can't or don't have the means to go to therapy, then there's other things you can do. And like I said, self-help books don't always have to be a book. I do audiobooks because I have dyslexia and reading is a little challenging for me. As you can see sometimes when I'm reading your comments, I don't know why my brain does what it does. Still a beautiful brain, but it does what it does. And so audiobooks have been really great for me. So I'll listen to them while I'm doing dishes or chores or driving sometimes. Only do that if it's safe for you. So it's really interesting. So really, I was talking about depression. Yeah, find what works for you, but never stop trying. If one thing doesn't work, try another thing. Maybe try that other thing again. Keep playing around with it, and find what makes you feel for what your normal might be. And depression and working on that doesn't mean, and healing from that doesn't mean one day you're not going to have depression, at least in my views. I know I will always live with depression and anxiety. That is a part of me, and that's okay. That's okay. I know sometimes I spiral. So, like when I was at my wedding, my friend held my hand because she knows Tiffany, and she said, Tiffany, this is you. I'm used to this. And so she just held my hand and breathed with me through it. And it was like one of the best bonding moments between the two of us. So it's just one of those cool things. Like when you have people by your side, you can find other ways to cope with things through love, different types of love. Let's see, I missed some comments. I'm a minor and I want to know exactly how does second tenet apply to a minor. Well, I did discuss this earlier, but this is specifically, obviously for consent. You cannot consent to someone who is an adult for a relationship, any kind of romantic relationship. Obviously, a familiar relationship, the age doesn't matter, things like that. But specifically for romantic relationships, that's not something that you can consent to. At least we don't believe so. But between minors, there's a little bit of nuance there. Someone might be 2-3 years older than you, but you as a 15-year-old wouldn't try a romantic relationship with someone who's 5. There's some nuance. You can kind of refer to local laws for some guidance. But how you should use it is that, when you're in a relationship, make sure it feels right for you. Let's say, regardless of, you're the same age, so you're both consenting, you're both of sound mind, as far as you're not inebriated, you're not, using anything you shouldn't be using, you're not under the influence of anything, even medicine, and you're both consenting to a relationship. That is fine, but then you also have to think about it. Do you want the relationship? Are you okay with it? And are you okay with a relationship up to a certain point? Communicate that with them. So that's kind of, consent has a lot to it. It's really about, you and I can go this far, here is my boundary. And as far as this far, I mean, maybe I only want to hang out with you on weekends because I have a life. That's our relationship agreement. Stop there. And the person tries to push past and say, well, you're not my boyfriend if you don't hang out with me on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. That's a boundary you've made. So it's just really understanding and navigating that. Like, consent can look like so many different things, and the best way to do it is decide what is okay for you, what is comfortable for you, and go from there. So I hope that helps a little bit. It is difficult with minors. I'm not going to pretend to be a pro because I'm not a teacher. I know a lot of teachers are really good on the topic. I believe Jerry is the better person for the exact wording on what to say, but I would say the biggest thing to do is make sure the person is of an appropriate age, and make sure whatever you're engaged in, whether you're hanging out with the person, holding hands, make sure that it's something you're comfortable with. Yeah. I've heard that cognitive behavioral therapy, but I don't fully know what it helps or what it does. So a lot of it is talking to a therapist, and them working through things and talking through your life with you, maybe talking about past experiences and relating it to now, sharing that with other people. My brain just died. Sharing that with you, sharing, you ever have a total brain boop? That was a moment. Okay, let's rewind. Cognitive behavioral therapy is when they take bits of your past. Maybe you talk about your childhood, you talk about now, you talk about trends of what you're doing in your life, and trying to direct you into a different, the healthiest way that you can do that. So for me, Like I tend to spiral when it comes to a problem. And by spiral, I mean I have a problem that starts here. I'm upset about, I don't know, my husband threw out something accidentally that was mine. And now it reminds me, oh my goodness, sometimes he bothers me when he does this, and sometimes he does this, and last week he didn't take out the laundry. And it just spirals, and I just think, oh my goodness, this is a terrible problem. Obviously, my relationship is garbage. I need to throw it out. Those are the feelings of someone who spirals. Now, realistically, I don't think any of that. I absolutely love him. He's a beautiful and wonderful, supportive person, and I could gush about him for 20 minutes, but I will not. But in that moment of the spiral, it's like everything is wrong. So for me, what my therapist does is they break it down for me and just say, okay, well, I know you're feeling this, but let's redirect it to, did he really do anything that really hurt you? Is there anything you could do better? Maybe in this moment you would need to take a pause, things like that. So it's just different ways of breaking down your thought process. But for some people, this can be harmful. So cognitive behavioral therapy is not good for everyone. I forget what categories of people where it doesn't work for. There was a big discussion on that. So make sure it's what works for you. But I just mentioned it because it's what I've been through. There's also somatic therapy, which involves, I think, something like tapping certain parts of your body and saying self-affirmations. It's really cool. I did it once with my therapist, and it did work out. When I'm in a big spiral, she told me to tap different parts of my body and say things like, I am worthy, and I made up the list of what it was, and it was really cool. So if I find that, I'll link to it somewhere. I'll get to it. Let me scroll back through comments. Let's see. It's a form of counseling, and having makes you think about things. Yeah, journaling does really help. I happen to write anyway, so for me, journaling ends up being an extra task. So for me, I need to talk it through. But journaling is something that people can definitely do. It's not really that scary. It doesn't have to be in a physical book. You can journal by typing. You can journal by talking into a recording. There's several different ways to journal. It doesn't have to be the traditional, you're doing like Doug in that show, Doug, when I was a kid. I'm aging myself, but he used to journal every day, everything that went through his life. But it was a good show. It was a cartoon. Let's see. I spent 10 days at behavioral hospital that use a CBT as treatment method. Sometimes it works, and I hope that it works for you, and sometimes it doesn't. It's just really important to recognize that not every person, it's going to be a blanket, this is what you do. But I do think from the therapy and psychology world, they tend to prescribe that to people. So I've been working to get into solid therapy, and I should definitely look into it. Yeah, I do highly recommend it. And again, if you don't have the means or the time or the ability to do therapy, self-help books can really help. I'm visually impaired, and I keep a journal by making private videos here on TikTok. Oh, I love that. Yeah, I'm happy I mentioned that. Yeah, there's different ways to journal, and if you're making those videos, I'm sure it's helpful to you and other people. So I think that's really cool. And I love that someone else knows Doug. Yay, we're dinosaurs officially. Wait, let me just drink some water before I exert myself. And also, I apologize if I talk too fast. I'm a New Yorker, and even when I think that I talk slower, it ends up being blah, blah, blah. So, sorry about that. It's working, and not everyone's cup of tea, but it does work for some. I'm glad that it's working, Pete. It really does work for me, and my current therapist, like I was saying, I've been with her for about a year. It has been the most life-changing year for me. And I'm not saying that, I didn't do the work, but I think when you have someone who has the right chemistry with you, it helps. And someone has a private channel on Discord for journaling. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, it's really nice. But yeah, I do think that journaling is really good. And I wish I could think of a really good Oh, I do have a good recommendation for a self-help book. This is recommended for me by one of my really good friends that I play video games with. She's a wonderful person. Her name's Freckle, so I'm giving her a little props there. And she recommended Adult Children of... okay, why am I brain? Adult Children of Emotionally Immature Parents. And I believe it's by Lindsay Gibson. And now this book is not a parent-blaming book, because I'm going to be a parent. I'm not about blaming parents. But it's about taking what your parents may have had. They may not have had the ability to be as emotionally mature as they wish they could be. And noticing how that might have impacted you, and having you recognize where you could also be emotionally immature and healing from that. And so that was really a great healing book for me. It was actually pretty life-changing. I listened to the audiobook specifically, but it also has physical books. I also recommend doing both at the same time if you can, just simply because hearing somebody else say it, if you process information auditorially, it's really helpful. That's just my personal thing. A lot of people do like to read books with a physical. But yeah, this book, Adult Children of Emotionally Immature Parents by Lindsay Gibson, is a really good book because I found that it helped me realize and recognize my emotional immaturity, and which we all have because it's really hard to develop as a human. We don't really have many, schooling doesn't really teach us how to mature emotionally. It teaches us, at least historically, how to prepare for a test. And that's not really a good barometer or a good way of measuring a person, in my opinion. Really you need people, they need resources for people learning how to mature. And simple things learning how to mature is having empathy for other people. And there's different levels, and there's something I can bring it up in another day for another lesson, but it's about the different levels of maturity. And eventually you get to a point where you can see someone who is typically a bad guy, and really empathize with them and still hold them accountable. So take the villain in a TV show or a movie, like maybe in Batman, the Joker or somebody like that. Obviously he's not a great person the way he's behaving, but you can kind of say, well, I know what this person has been through. I can understand how they got there, and I'm still holding them accountable. And that's actually really hard to do because the instinct of the brain is to go, they did something wrong, they're bad, they need to be punished. And that, yeah, they do need to be punished, or they need to they need to own up to what they've done and face the consequences of what they've done, but it's neither my job to mete out that punishment, like Batman does, because he's a vigilante, and it's not, why am I calling them a bad person? Because maybe I could have gotten there, right? Maybe if I grew up in a family that was neglectful, and was mistreated in that particular way and laughed at as a kid and all these different things, right? And then become an adult, maybe I would feel similarly. And now I'm not, obviously what the Joker does in any of the Joker movies is pretty extreme, but maybe you have a bully in school and you're 15 and they are being mean and they're kicking dirt in people's face or something like that. You can take that and say, well, what have they been through? And it's hard to do that as an actual child, but maybe as an adult, you can see, well, they are being mistreated at home, or they don't have a stable and safe home to go to, and no one's helping regulate their emotions. They haven't gone through any process of healing because they're an actual child, or a young person. You can see that, but you can still hold them accountable for their actions at the same time. Say, okay, well, Billy, I just made up a name. There's nobody named Billy who's doing this. But, Billy, okay, you're going to do X, Y, and Z to make up for what you've done and apologize to children that you've hurt. But we're also going to understand that you're human, and we're not going to label you as a bad person. And it's really hard to do, and I'm not telling you that everyone is going to be that place in their journey or ever get to that place, and that's okay. But it's really just things to start thinking about. Like, why am I labeling people as good and bad? Maybe people are just people. And that's really just something that has helped me for my journey completely unlock a different way of thinking. Because I used to label people as good and bad and okay or whatever. And when I stopped doing that, it's just like, yeah. And someone mentioned they need to be punished humanely. And sure, maybe that's going through our system with our government or whatever, and them being punished through going through court and that system. But it's not for me to say, okay, well, I see they're doing something wrong, I need to yell and scream at them. And I see that come up a lot in Facebook and other social media. And sometimes it's hard not to get wrapped up in that. I promise you, you're human for getting wrapped up in the way that social media draws you in. But maybe there's an argument and you morally feel that this is a wrong thing. You type out your response. Some random person types up theirs and they're contradictory. They're the opposite of what you're saying. And now the temptation is to be like, well, you're a bad person because you believe the opposite of what I believe. But you don't know where this person is coming from. You don't know their background. You don't know any of it, And so what happened is that you end up labeling a person and not really knowing what's going on, And then I see in the comments people just get nasty. They say really cruel things to each other. And it's over sometimes an imaginary situation, or it's over celebrities that their lives are so far removed from us we don't even know what's going on. And so it's just really interesting that sometimes when you try to draw from the empathy, people don't like it because they're just like, well, this person deserves it. And it's like, that may just be where they are in their journey, and it's best to just disengage. And I would say for your own healing journey and mental well-being, disengage. And I say this as someone who regularly accidentally gets close to, oh my goodness, this person is mistreating, they're acting horribly in my opinion, and now I want to tell them a thing or two. I always delete. Type it out, then delete. That is my great recommendation. Let me just check and see if there's any comments in Discord. I see there's chat, but I don't think there's any comments, which is fine. Okay, but yeah, is there something here? No, okay. But yeah, are there any questions? We've kind of gone over all about healing. I think the biggest thing is really look inward and try to figure out what you want in life and what you want to accomplish, and make little goals and reach out to people who might be able to help you, whether it's family or friends. Maybe make a small circle of people for accountability and reflection together if you can. And also being a part of this church is really great because we have, especially if you're on the Discord, I highly recommend joining the Discord if you haven't, because every time I do a live, someone says they haven't joined the Discord. I highly recommend that. And there's different sections there for each different type of system or anything else, just talking about different topics, whether it's if you have like me, dyslexia, being able to chat with other people and just be like, have you had a difficult day, with your dyslexia or something like that, or, things like that. And so being able to do that is really great. Yeah, I see Darvin Poet. I love what's going on there on here. Yeah, we're really just discussing a lot of different, what is a system? So system is, and now this is one of those things where I know what it is vaguely, but I believe it's including anyone who is has mental disabilities such as depression, anxiety, also ADHD, autism. I might be wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm always willing to fix it. But I believe we're talking about those kind of things. And I can't remember exactly what Jerry told me one time. She had a better way of describing it because she's a brilliant person. So I'm sorry for that, but that's pretty much what we mean, like any of those kind of things. And I believe it includes other physical disabilities as well. But that's what we mean when we say systems. Let's see, I went and gotten my ministry creds to help. Oh, that's cool. That's really nice. And you're on the Discord, so is your husband. Glad to hear that. So I think it's really wonderful, a really great place, because actually, for me, and I'll give this little bit of background and then I'll kind of close things up. I joined the church via Facebook, and then I saw the Discord because I actually paid attention, which I rarely do. I went over the Discord and I saw how cool that was. And then they were making a lot of changes, and I remember somebody was saying, oh, we happen to be looking for more BIPOC people, Black, Indigenous, and people of color, and, to join our team. And I was like, you know what, let me actually finally step up. So if you happen to be BIPOC, I do encourage you to step up and join us and help out any way you can. And if you're not, also join us and help out any way you can. It's really, we definitely could use more eyes and ears and thoughts, and eyes and ears is the wrong word. We can definitely use more brains and thoughts and different ways of thinking about things. I definitely would love to have more people with different disabilities on our team. We already do have plenty, but that's just things to think about. If you think you can contribute to making this a great community, you're always welcome to reach out to either want to help volunteer, or you can reach out to give us suggestions, reasons why on the Discord we have more, different, the segments for the systems and everything is because people have reached out and said, hey, I'd really like an anxiety channel, and then we have an anxiety channel now. So it's really cool. But yeah, other than that, I just wanted to remind all of you that, this church is really going to be, or really is, a very inclusive place. We really want to encourage diversity. We really want to encourage people to be their true self and feel that, we are a queer community first. That's one of our first thoughts, but it's not only. It's, yes, we're for LGBTQIA plus people to, feel welcome, but we also want other people who are not. We want people who have disabilities. We want people who have, who would like religious freedom, people who have been harmed, by other religions, such as myself, going through some religious trauma, or really just a different way of doing a church. And I think a lot of people can connect. And also, you can be part of this church and other churches. It is not exclusive. You can believe in God. I do. And be a part of this community. You can not. You can think God is vague. Like, whatever it might be, there's no specific thing. You can have multiple beliefs because this church is really about the self and healing and being part of a community and loving other people. And it's just really a cool place to be in. So what's the next step? I haven't heard anything from this group in a while. Really? We've been around for a while. We've been doing a lot. Our next steps right now is we're making a move over to YouTube. Soon our videos do get posted on YouTube with captions. Unfortunately, TikTok does not allow us to do lives with captions, and I'm really upset about that. So we're moving over to YouTube for that reason, and also just for general, it's an easier platform. And on there, we're going to have more content. If you haven't already joined the Discord, please do. If you haven't already become an official member, please do. And then from there, we're hoping that we can do a lot of good because we are an actual religion. We are a real church. Part of our tenets, if you've gone through them, is about, gender affirming surgeries and procedures are all part of our tenets. And also, if you need to have any kind of reproductive care, it's part of our tenets. And we're hoping that we can protect. We're hoping that we can protect our members for their religious freedom and, going on from here. So there's a lot that we're going to do, but also we want to do communities. We're going to have people that can become ordained. There's a lot we want to do. And our big people like Jerry, she's the founder, have these amazing dreams. I'm telling you, she is just really cool. I really love her. She has great dreams for this church, and I'm not going to reveal anything I can't reveal yet, but I'm certain that we will in the future be going on to even bigger and better things. But for now, we are definitely a community first, and we care about our members first. So let's see. We need Reddit mods as well. Yeah, we do. We're looking for Reddit mods. We're looking for other content creators. That's another big one. The more content creators we have who are, really positive thinking and really want to get things out there, really great. If you're ready to help, you can email us at hi@prismaticlightchurch.org. Just the word hello, like hi, H-I, at prismaticlightchurch.org, and say that you'd want to participate. If you want to do content creation, help out be a mod, or help out in general, and we can direct you to positions that we have open for volunteering and being a staff member. So let's see, make a journey in. Yes, and go over to Discord. Discord is really cool, even though I know a lot of people hate Discord. I know my parents would absolutely hate Discord because it's a lot. Is there anything else? Any other questions? If not, I might close it out for today. Any thoughts on healing? Yes, thank you for typing, Darby. Always wonderful. And it looks like, I thought I saw something. Okay, but yeah, that's pretty much for today. I hope that this reflection really helped you think about things. Definitely the book recommendation is great. Really just think about, what is good for you and what makes you happy. And we have my little candle. I'll blow it out when we're done. But yeah, it was a pleasure with everybody. And I'll be here. I'll be here next week. I believe Jerry will also be here next week. I know we all missed her. But it was a pleasure, and I hope that if anybody has questions, you can also ask on the Discord later. And we're going to have this posted over on YouTube with captions soon when one of our caption people gets a chance to do it. Okay, well, take care, everybody. Have a wonderful day, and love and light. Okay, that was a little bit much. All right, take care.